On today's episode, we'll talk about being inspired by Carlito's Way, working with Ari Aster and Tim Burton, Midsummer, Werewolf, and of course, getting a big hug goodbye from Tom Cruise. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. As always, our website, theop.io, is up and chock full of tips, tricks, and gooey operator goodness. Make sure to check out the breakdown, where the best operators in the biz explain shots they have done, the musings, where we discuss everything from quick tips to larger concepts of storytelling, the blocking, the answers, the images, and so much more. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow us, write a review, share us with your parents, and talk us up around the water cooler with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy the op. Thanks for listening.
Lock it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll.
Rolling. Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello and welcome back to the Op Podcast, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. I am Dave Comides, your host, and very excited today to have a really wonderful operator who's done some amazing work, Fabrizio Sciarra. He's coming to us from Reading, England, and Fabrizio's been around for a while. I've known his work for a while. We actually just recently met, and I'm so excited to talk to him. Couple of his credits, but there are a lot. Mission Impossibles 7 and 8, which I didn't even realize there were that many at this point. Dungeons and Dragons, Werewolf, Wednesday, Beetlejuice, Midsummer, Krypton, Emerald City. He was nominated for the BSC Operators Award in 2023 for Wednesday, and has just done some incredible work with some really interesting filmmakers. And just very glad to have him on the show. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me here. Thank you very much, David. Pleasure to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, what's your story? How'd you get into the film industry?
Right. My story is a very odd one. I can proudly say I jumped into the window to come into the industry. I started long ago. When I left Italy, being Italian, I was around 23, and I left Italy as a scuba diver instructor, basically to travel the world and have fun. And so I did for a few years. And then I started taking pictures underwater. And that led to doing videos underwater. And that led to film underwater with film cameras. So, yes, wow. And one day I found myself doing what I was passionate about, which was scuba diving and wildlife. And while doing that, my other passion, which was filming. So I've been double lucky in that. And so I've done it for a few years. And one thing after another, one day I was rewatching a film that I love and watching it with different eyes. Don't ask me how and why. I don't know. It's one of those things in life. And watching the film, I fell in love with a shot. And the film is Carlito's Way. And the shot is Larry McConkey's amazing, incredible shot in Central Station. And at that point, I was jaw dropped, looking at the screen. And I just stopped breathing. And I told myself, okay, this is something I have to look into. This is what I want to do. I didn't even know what it was. It just, I need to go into this, and I need to go and study, because, oh my God, I was basically, yes, completely, burned inside, and just, oh my Lord, this is something new I need to look into. And so basically I did. And I start looking into Steadicam and the world of Steadicam, start reading everything that was around available. And as you well remember, at the time was all through, the Steadicam forum. And
when was this? What year is this?
This was beginning of 2000, probably around 2002, 2003.
Okay.
And so at the time, I was based and living in the Middle East, in Egypt, because of my underwater filming. So I was living on the Red Sea and being very busy doing underwater filming. And I decided to take my very first Steadicam workshop, because looking around, I thought, that's the way to do it, and asked everyone possible in the industry. And everyone said, well, you have to start somewhere, and take your first workshop. And so I did. So I traveled to the UK, funnily enough, where I later on moved without knowing, and traveled to Manchester, England, and did my very first Steadicam workshop, and fell in love even more with Steadicam. Found it incredibly hard. So day one, of course, loads of questions were in my head, like, what the hell am I doing? This thing is heavy. The pain is unbearable. It's incredible. But at the same time, I was so hyped, I am doing it. This is the very start. It doesn't matter how much I have to suffer. I want to do this.
Was that a week-long class or who taught it?
It was a full-on Steadicam course. I think at the time was the only thing that was available. There wasn't any taster around. You had to go fully committed, and that was the package. So
do you remember who taught it? Who the instructors?
Oh
were?
yes, absolutely. Howard Smith, which at the time was very busy. At the time was owning MKV. And so I'd done the course with him and came back home, left a slice of heart in the Steadicam room, and immediately bought a very light Steadicam system. I think a Flyer was to start practicing, and I think I practice. I don't want to overthink, but probably thousands of hours. I'm no kidding.
We all did, right? You just wanted to figure it out. Yeah.
Yes, I think at the time we all did. It wasn't a time where the Volt or any other aid was around. And I really wanted to master it because.
Do you remember? Well, first of all, let me back up for a second. And I should mention, by the way, on the website, and I'll put a link to this on your page. There's a breakdown that Larry McConkey did of that shot in Carlito's Way. Have you seen that?
I did.
Because he has the video tap. It's incredible. So I'll put that on there, and that's amazing. So, but did you have before sort of going, this is what I want to do? You said you were doing underwater stuff, but this wasn't professional stuff with like professional film cameras and stuff was it?
It was. I ended up shooting films underwater, and I ended up towards the end of my underwater career. I ended up having a film camera, proper film camera.
I didn't realize that. So Are you shooting documentaries then, or what were you shooting?
I was doing documentaries and I was doing films in the Middle East. There's at the time, at least when I was based there, the industry was quite busy, and in Cairo there were a lot of films produced for the whole Middle East. So I ended up shooting films underwater. I then quickly got bored out of it because I realized that instead of shooting incredible wildlife, in documentaries, films ended up mostly in a tank filming the classic dead bodies that falls into the water and you're looking up backlit, and like, okay, that was exciting, but moving on, and
I've done that before.
That
makes sense.
Exactly that. So I ticked many boxes, and at that point I was missing what I was doing with wildlife because, I'm a bit of a shark freak. So I spent many years filming sharks. It was very, very exciting and incredible. I'm very lucky. If I look back at what I've done, I've been so lucky to take all the boxes that I wanted to, and that made me. They gave me the motivation to move into Steadicam and on land filming, because I've done so much that I never look back and think, oh my God, I could have done that. I'm missing it, I'm fulfilled.
You did that, and you're moving on. So had you seen a Steadicam before this? Like, did you know what it was?
I knew nothing about it, Dave. I knew zero. And yes,
that's amazing.
I don't know. I can't explain it. I just fell in love, and I knew straight away is what I wanted to do. Don't ask me how. I still can't explain it. That's how.
Do you remember? Do you remember the first time you put it on? Like what? I mean, because you said it so well. It's like the first time you put it on, it's like, why does this hurt? And I can't stand straight, and it's running away from me. And they're telling me not to hold it, but I have to hold it because there's all none of it makes sense, right? Do you remember?
No.
Do you remember what it was that made you go, I need to do this? Was there something specific that you can, or just
I fell in love with the aesthetic of it. My entire life is driven by aesthetic. I'm wired this way, I can barely do 2 + 2, but I'm glad the kind of cane aesthetic. So being anything, being art, being cars, being human beings' faces to portray, it's the way I'm wired. And the aesthetic and the language of Steadicam, in specifically that film, that scene, the rhythm and everything, it was, to me, was poetry, and I thought, oh my God, if this is possible, I want to do it, Never came close to Larry's skills, of course.
Larry's on a different level. And also, I've said this before, in fairness, there's Larry, which is he's his own thing. And then there's Larry being able to work on a movie with someone like Brian De Palma, who can, you need all those pieces, right? You could be Larry on some movie with no vision, and you're not making stuff like that. But that's just...
so very well said, Dave. As you well know, the mechanical skill of moving a Steadicam and a camera in 3 dimensions it falls apart and is nothing if there isn't a vision behind. And as we know, is teamwork. It's the director vision, director of photography, to embrace the lighting for Steadicam, which is, as we know, extremely challenging, especially in set conditions, and the actors taking on board all the caveats that goes with the Steadicam shot, with the complications of moving in 3 dimensions, and doing it in a graceful way.
So you got a flyer, which can that fly a film camera? I forget the flyer. Was it only a video camera?
No, because there's another story behind. I bought a flyer to train myself, and I quickly learned how tricky it was to learn to fly a light camera on a flyer, because it requires an incredible surgical touch with your hand on a gimbal. I call it my right hand because I'm goofy. So I there learned the huge difference of, flying a full system, and the difference applied to flyer. And that took literally hundreds of hours to develop that skill, and then translate it back into a full rig, which I owned, an MKV at the time. That was one of my first rig, carbon fiber rig, 4 stages, which, looking backward, wasn't right for me because I'm not that tall. It would have suited you probably much better, having seen you in person. I'm 5'7". So 4 stages was very long to me. And where I was based in the Middle East, in the early 2000s, the digital revolution came quite late. So while you guys were flying what at the time was probably the Red One, which was the first wow thing to fly, we didn't see any in the Middle East. And my bread and butter daily camera was a 535.
Oh wow, which is a heavy film camera. Yeah.
Yes,
I'll tell you. I'll say this. I remember this from the Red One. You didn't miss much, because the thing that I remember about the Red One was the first time I had it, I was doing a whip pan, and I whipped, and the camera shut down, and I went, "What happened?" And the guy goes, "Oh, did you whip it?" And he goes, "Yeah," because I was just rehearsing, and he goes, "Yeah, you can't move it too quick, or else the connector."
Yeah, one of those things back in the days.
It took them a while to figure it out. They did eventually, but anyway. So I see. So you had a full size rig that you were using for film stuff anyway. And
Correct.
So did you just contact all the people that you knew from underwater and say, "This is what I'm doing now"? I mean, were there other people who were doing Steadicam as well?
There was one very well-established guy in Egypt, Egyptian, of course, and I was basically the other one. So I
Not
found
bad.
myself I found myself very lucky again, and I met incredible people, lovely DPs, and I started from being known in the underwater world, then translated into Steadicam, and I've been lucky because let's say the culture in the Middle East is vastly different from European American culture in terms of, I would say, details and precision, which allowed me for a bit more room to wiggle at the beginning of my career. I didn't skip any step because I spent literally hundreds of hours in a flyer, and I had the flyer at home because I was based on the Red Sea, but all the films were made in Cairo. So
Okay.
I used to fly an hour to Cairo, and that's where I kept my big rig. So without flying forth and back every time, so I was
Yeah.
keeping the big rig in Cairo, and is where I was doing the filming. So that's where the 535 used to go on to.
So wait, what you said there was a difference there. I didn't understand that. What's the difference in how they work versus how they work in
So
London?
the culture is absolutely different. It's two
Yeah.
complete words, complete different words. We could spend hours and hours
Yeah.
talking about it,
But
but
how does that translate on a film set?
it translates into chaos.
Okay.
There's no shortcut to that, Dave.
Because there's no chaos anywhere else, right? On any other film
yes.
sets. Yeah.
Well,
But anyway, but it's the norm. It sounds like.
yes, imagine the chaos that we are used to, and multiply that to 10, and that gives
Okay.
you Middle Eastern chaos.
Wow.
Right. Yes, it's a lot to digest. Imagine something else. I had to work in Arabic.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
And
there was
do
very little spoke.
Did you
I
speak
did
Arabic?
speak a little bit
Okay.
of Arabic because
Yeah.
I spent in total 11 years there. Okay, so a little bit of Arabic, let's say a 5% of the language, without
Wow,
making it
that's
too big.
yeah.
But luckily, film language, it's still film language. So
Yeah.
even if it's in Arabic, once you know the numbers of lenses and they inherit few words from French language,
Mhm.
So after a while, we're all understanding each other anyway.
Yeah.
And
That's
and
true.
sometimes I ask for a word in English to understand things, and and sometimes I get back in Arabic, and I was quite the novelty because an expat working there speaking a little bit of Arabic, everyone was
Sure. Yeah.
but it was amazing fun.
Did the chaos allow you to sort of like it's not the right word, but get away with things while you were learning a little more? Is that how
I like to think so. Probably more just mentally. It was just in my head, thinking I could get away with a bit more than I would have wanted to, but it always worked well.
Yeah. Well, how long would you say it was after you started doing Steadicam where you could go onto a set, they call you for a job, and you didn't sweat, can I do this?
I would say solid couple of years, which is what I recommend. I used to run Steadicam courses for the Guild of British Camera Technicians, the GBCT. Mm-hmm. We used to do a course per year reserved to focus pullers and second ACs and operators, of course, they wanted to take on board Steadicam. So a course, let's say, reserved to the industry, to people already working in the industry. And very few. So a good selection during the year and 6 or 7 candidates only. And it is the first thing that I recommend on day one. Never skip steps and don't look for shortcuts because sadly there aren't any. If you want to be good, you have to commit, and it's a long way, and it's the hardest thing that you can learn on set, as we know. As a camera operator, it's the hardest skill. So rewarding at the same time, incredibly rewarding, so fulfilling, so amazing, but at the same time very hard.
Yeah.
And people has very high expectations when you're hired. It's a privilege to be hired and to show on set, and that privilege at that point is on your shoulder when camera roll. So that's what I always like to keep in mind to myself as well. Never show unprepared.
Yeah. Were you showing up and just doing Steadicam, or were you doing conventional camera as well at that point?
At the time, you may remember, Steadicam ops were specialists. That's when I started. So I've seen a lot of morphing in our positions in the industry because, as I said, when I started, where the Steadicam operator was coming with his own focus puller, his own remote focus, his own remote wireless, his own everything. And we used to take control of the set. We used to take the camera, and we used to have our own Steadicam assistant. And at that point, we were in the center of attention, even more than nowadays. And later on, as you remember, it became something different. We went from there to, B camera operators should do Steadicam, and should train for that. So that's when I started morphing into operating as well, to fill that role, to stay involved as much as I could in the process, because it's what I like. And then from B camera to A camera. So I would call it some sort of a natural growing.
Yeah. And so how many years did it take you to get to the point where you were doing A camera on shows?
I started doing A camera on shows, I think around 2015, something like that, 2016.
Okay. So it's a good 10, 12 years or so?
And I do A camera or B camera or Steadicam only, depending on what the show is. But
Sure. But until you were ready for it, do you remember the first show you made the jump up to full time? Like you were the A camera operator for the whole show?
That's a good question. No, I don't. Makes me feel old.
That's all right.
I'd have to look back on IMDb.
Well, the reason that I was going to ask was just, that's a big mental game, right? I mean, the interesting thing is, and I was talking to someone about this the other day who pointed this out, when we would go in and just do Steadicam, and it's funny you said something that I had forgotten, was that we used to bring our own assistants. I had actually forgotten.
Indeed, yes.
That was such a long time ago. But even when you were just coming in and doing just a Steadicam shot, or you're doing B camera and Steadicam shot, we still got that taste when we went in to do Steadicam of being the A camera operator, right? Because we basically, it was like, okay, what do you need from us? What do we have to do? Where do we have to go?
Totally.
And so you sort of ran it, and then you get to like step back a little bit, right? And go, okay, now I can watch the circus again. So I was just wondering, was there a big mental shift when you were sort of like, oh, now I'm the A camera operator?
No. Absolutely, as you described it, because we've been A camera without having the label on it, because when we used to show up on set and get hold of the whole set, and take the lead, you're A camera operating is, and 99% of time the Steadicam was the only camera rolling on set when we were around. Very rarely there was a B camera shooting B-roll, because we would have been, as always happens, in the way of everyone else and filling the frame of every other camera operator. So we were by all means doing and covering the role of A camera, and as you know, that feeling becomes addictive. Or at least that was to me highly addictive. You come off the hype of the adrenaline of a shot well executed, and the only thing that comes to my mind is, I want more.
So is this? Are you still living in Egypt at this point? Or have you moved to London, or are you traveling around for stuff?
I moved in London in 2009. So I left Egypt in 2009, luckily, unknowingly at the time, just a year before the Middle East Revolution, which crumbled the film industry there. So yes, just in time before that, unknowingly. So I've been lucky again. And then moved into the UK, which wasn't an easy move at all, because I knew nobody. I knew I knew literally nobody, so I had to restart all my contacts from scratch. At that time, I had, I think, something like 17 films, full features, feature films on my CV, but nobody cared. I wasn't British, and I was just again. I was simply coming in England without knowing anyone. So it took me, I would say, good couple of years to put my name around, shake hands and try to know as many people as possible, and try my luck, and again, I've been lucky, and perseverance, pays off. It does indeed. So never stop dreaming.
So you moved to England, and it takes you a couple of years. And then how do you? I mean, do you just spend that time trying to meet as many DPs and operators and whatever, and slowly it starts to come in, you get established, or how do you reinvent yourself like that?
Yeah, more or less like that. I was lucky enough when I was still in Egypt to do a commercial for a lovely DP that I met there, and was a British DP that gave me the contact of an agent. So I got in touch with the agent. He introduced me, and the agent took me on board. So he helped me out to meet people, and between being producers, directors, director of photography, and that's how I started. And then one thing after another, here I am.
And was you mentioned how in Egypt it was chaos? Did it seem like completely going to London and working on those shows? Did it seem completely just calm and collected as a result?
Yes, I would say yes. Definitely yes. A big yes, a capital yes.
Was there a learning curve between how they besides the chaos, but how they work in Egypt versus how they work in England, or is it the same kind of setup?
Not really, because when I was in Egypt, I had the chance to work with many foreign DPs, especially on commercials, because location.
Oh, nice.
Egypt offers amazing locations, so a lot of commercials were shot there, being them underwater or Steadicam. So I got to meet a lot of people and worked in many different ways. So not much of a shock, definitely no. That was a very easy transition, I would say.
Yeah, fantastic. So, listen, I want to ask you about some of the specific movies that you've worked on, because you've one of the things that I noticed in looking at, I don't know if this is maybe they seek you out or not, but you've done Midsummer with Ari Aster, you've done a couple of things with Tim Burton, you just did Werewolf with Robert Eggers. Without knowing the little that I know, these all seem like directors who have very, very specific visions. And I'm wondering, is that something, is it different working with people like that than say working with, some big action director who kind of is out there and let's grab this and let's grab that and let's grab that. And am I right about that, I should say?
Yeah. Well, you just nailed it, Dave. I've been so lucky. I still can't believe how privileged I've been to work with these directors. Every time I look back at it, I still have to pinch myself, and so I did every single day on set when I've been with these directors, because it's a privilege, and it's been an incredible. Each and every experience has been incredible, and as you say, those directors are so specific and so visionary that the most important thing, you have to immediately try and wear their shoes and read their minds, because that's where the film is. It burns in their minds, and 99% of times it's a very specific vision. And you have to, your responsibility is to put their vision into practice, and make it work the way they see it.
Talking specifically about Midsummer, and by the way, Midsummer, the DP was Pavel. What's his name?
Pavel. I hope I'm going to pronounce it well. May Pavel forgive me. We're still friends. Pavel Pogorzelski.
I didn't even try. He contacted me early on and sent me the script, and I remember reading the script and going, "This is either going to be the best movie ever made or the worst movie ever made." I couldn't really tell. It was crazy.
You're so much right. Yes.
Then when I saw that movie, so my question is, first of all, are all those? I mean, that movie is so specifically shot. I mean, there is such. First of all, the work you did is incredible, but it's really on a different
Thanks.
level because the operating is so specific to that story, to that movie. Was that all
Yes.
in Ari Aster's mind? Is that all him?
Ari Aster is a genius, and there is no other way to see it. And I discover that he's a genius only step by step while we were filming. The hard part for me was that Ari and Pavel were longtime friends. They'd been to film school together. They shot their first film that was incredibly successful as a first film. And then they were ready to shoot Midsummer, and I had an interview, a Zoom interview with Pavel, and Pavel described the film, which sounded crazy to me, completely crazy. And I thought, as you did, I thought, oh my God, this is either incredible or better not have the credit on. But it was so crazy that was exciting to me. It was challenging, and he'd been very, very honest. He said, look, I'm the DP on the film. I'm crap at operating camera, and Ari wants a good operator, that it's somebody that is really good on wheels. And I fit the bill because 99.9% of my work is on wheels. So most of my work is on gearheads or remote heads. So there was me in Hungary on a sunny field where we ended up shooting in July and August in 45 degrees. And the film was crazy, and everyone realized how crazy it was day by day. Was such an empowering experience, and the vision that Ari had was incredible, because Ari had his film in his mind sitting there for 10 years. So the level of detail.
Oh, really?
That the level of detail that he had in his mind was absolutely astonishing. I can't describe it to anyone unless you watch the film 4 or 5 times to start understanding how exactly everything had to happen at a certain time in a certain place in a frame. And he would not absolutely compromise with anything. Which, bless him, was, the beauty of the film is the whole thing. Yes, and I still remember the first few days. We were shooting probably with 60, 70 extras that, funnily enough, they weren't extras. They were Swedish actors, proper Swedish actors, not extras.
Oh, wow.
Because they wanted to keep it real as a proper Swedish midsummer. So, I learned it later on. I learned it while on set. I've been told, no, those are real actors. And they were just standing there in the sun, Oh my God. Everything was out of ordinary from beginning to end, And the first few days, moving away from a shot where we rehearse half a day and then we shoot few takes, and then moving on, we're out of the scene. And I was frightened. And it's like, Ari, are you sure we got this? You happy with this? Yeah. There's no coverage. That's us. The camera is a witness, and not even a witness. Is more. The camera is somebody there. The camera is the story. We are the story. We are in it. That's it. We're never gonna cut away from that. So the pressure was immense.
Well, I remember early on in that movie, I can't remember what the scene was, but there was one scene, I think it's in the apartment before they leave, where they're talking and the camera just very slowly and methodically starts to pan away from them and then almost becomes their POV. And I remember thinking, this is something very, very different and very, very special.
That was a shot that I haven't shot, so I won't take the credit for it. That has been shot in studio.
Either way,
at a later stage. I think in Canada. I may be wrong. I don't know because I simply wasn't part of it.
Sure, but you had established that style with him, obviously, because that's what the whole movie is like. I mean, that's just where it fell in the movie. One specific shot I have to ask you, which I assume maybe you didn't do, because did you do the helicopter shot that goes upside down as they're driving?
Yes, that was a very tricky shot.
Yeah, tell me about that. Because first of all, that shot when it happened, I think I gasped just because it was so. It was such a piece of storytelling in such a simple way. It was fantastic. But tell me about that.
You meaning the shot where they're traveling into the van and they're going into the city, into the village?
Yeah, they're driving and it goes and it just basically turns and completely comes upside down, and then they're still traveling in the same direction, but now the whole world has turned upside down.
Yes, it took me a while to understand the shot. I have to admit, when Harry was describing it, I was like, "Okay, how do we do this?" So Pavel did a fair amount of research, and we basically hired a remote head that was capable to do that, and the only one available. It was summer, I think, 2018 that we were shooting in Hungary. It was pretty busy summer. There were many remote heads available, so we hired one from abroad. I think from Germany or Austria, something like that. I think Germany. And we had it flying over, and we did some tests. And funnily enough, it's supposed to be a head that was the perfect head for that shot. Now, for a laugh, if you watch the shot back, you will find a glitch. So the head.
Really? Anyway, you'll find a glitch. Bizarre. I don't know if I'll find a glitch. You'll find a glitch. What's the glitch?
It happily happens in a place where it's very hard to see. It happens in the sky.
Okay.
Because the software couldn't cope with the entire switch on the 3-axis. Basically, there was a lot of handwork behind that, a lot of work on the wheels, and while moving the 3-axis and the lens pointing straight up, there was a glitch in the software that basically give up for a fraction of a second. And if you look attentively at the clouds in the sky, you can see there's some sort of a glitch. But you really have to look into it. Otherwise, it looks like a good shot.
Well, now you've ruined the whole movie for me now. I don't even know if I can go back and watch it.
You know what? We said, because it happened in the sky and on a cloud, I said, Harry, we're safe here. We can, classic, we can fix it in post. That dust off the shoulder and say, they're going to fix it in post because it's on a cloud. There's nothing that can't be fixed. It's one frame or two. And funnily enough, they never touched it. They left it as it is because otherwise you wouldn't know. As you said, you haven't noticed.
Is he the type of person who he has every single shot in his mind and it's just you having to get it out? Or is it you have an idea for it and then it evolves?
No, he has everything in his mind. He had very, very clear ideas and clear needs in a shot, in a scene. Let's call it a scene more than a shot, because every shot was a scene. So he had in his mind very, very detailed path for everyone and everything to fall into the right place at the right time. And and that combined with performances, of course, it made it very challenging,
So it seems to me, and I don't know another director I could put here, but it seems to me that look, there are certain directors that I've worked with. I've never worked with anybody quite like what you're talking about. And it sounds like there are not many people quite like what you're talking about. But it seems like a lot of directors will come to us and go, here's the shot and we're over here and this is the story and this and that. And then we kind of take it and we improve on it. We offer them suggestions. That's what a lot of our work obviously is. But it seems to me like in this situation, you're not trying to improve on anything. You're just trying to get all of the specific beats and trying to get exactly what he wants.
It goes back to what we were saying before, because Ari and Pavel were very close friends, and Ari had this idea in his mind for 10 years. He was a grown up baby, and I felt I was nobody to interfere with his vision, which was a pristine and an immaculate vision. I felt at that point my role was to not interfere with his thoughts and serve the film, serve the picture without upsetting any of the balance, because would have been sacrilege in my mind, the way I see it. While some other times I feel and always felt allowed to say what I think, because I think I can improve something somewhere. With Ari, it was much more delicate environment to step onto, because I needed to be trusted as a newcomer for him, and need to be accepted in his own mind. So it was a delicate environment to step into. So I tried to interfere the least amount possible, if you like.
That's amazing. Because there's look, every shot in that movie is designed, and I mean that in the best possible way. But it's clear that someone had, and obviously that's what I was wondering, is I assumed it was from him, but I wasn't sure. He obviously had the vision, and not only that, but because I'm sure you've done this before, you work with people who have vision, and then when they get to the location and put the vision in place, it doesn't quite work. But for that movie, it just absolutely works. So did you do a lot of takes of different things, or you said you actually didn't do a lot of takes of many shots, or some shots?
No, not many. It wasn't at the time. I don't know now, but it wasn't at the time Ari style to do many takes. Plus, we had huge timing constrictions. We had a couple of months to shoot the film, and we were shooting. Remember the title, Midsummer. We were shooting in Hungary in a field, July and August in 45 degrees. It was extremely challenging. So yes, we had people fainting. We had it all. So imagine for the whole of us, for the whole cast, the whole crew, was very, very hard, and there was no escape. We were all under the sun, and it was a mission. We were all on the same field, under the same fierce heat. So
sure. But I would imagine that especially there are a lot of longer shots in there. I would imagine that with all the orchestration, you must have rehearsed it quite a bit before you rolled. Yeah.
Yes, definitely a few rehearsals. And now that we talk, I remember, yes, I gave some suggestions on very technical shots where we had time towards the end of the film, the ballet that happens when everyone dances around Florence. And we know there were a lot of head scratching to make it happen in an achievable way, put it this way, with the time we were given. So that there I put my expertise and the technical side of it, and when Ari was, doubting how to do it, I was putting it on the table and was happily taken on board. But that was towards the end of the film. And at that point, he trusts me way more than when we met. It's an important role, as you know.
Oh, absolutely. And how long do you think, how long did it take into shooting for him to realize, because let me put it this way. I would imagine that someone like that, his biggest fear with an operator who he obviously relies on heavily, would be twofold. One is, can he do the job? That's just its own thing because it's a very technical thing. But two is, am I going to say, at this line, I want you to pan very slowly over to here and then find that at this point? And is he going to adjust that, or is he going to do what, exactly as I asked, because he's so specific? How long did it take for him to, realize that you were a collaborator that he could trust?
I think it took us a couple of weeks to both of us to glue each other, and trust each other. And more than anything, we trusted each other straight away. But more than anything was understanding each other, because Ari was talking his vision out of his mind. He wasn't talking camera. and that stayed for the whole film, and for me was quite challenging. I had to just absorb his vision step by step, frame by frame, the way he was describing things happening, and then translate it into camera. So we used to have basically start a scene with a chat, the three of us, myself, Pavel, and Ari, and having listening from Ari his vision about what was going to happen and the way he see it and the way he wanted it, and then from there started to put it in practice without going too technical with him, because that would distract him from his vision and the performance. So I didn't want to put on the table, I'm going to be in trouble with this lens here, what am I going to do? So I tried always to solve those issues by myself with Pavel on the side and keep him fresh with his vision without interfering too much, and just offering the solution, without going through the problem, just present the polished version of what he was asking for, basically. That was my technique.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. I was just talking to a friend of mine who's a great operator, Ari Isler, the other day, and he said that one of the best things a director ever told him, or one of the best pieces of advice he ever got, which was from a director, was don't make it different, make it better. And I thought that was great.
Yes, sounds great to me. Yes.
But what a facet. But the word again, I'll just say that some of the best camera operating. I tell camera operators watch that movie, because talk about telling story with camera operating. Was it hard sometimes? Because some of the stuff that I see in there, after seeing it, I understand that it works, but it seems like the instinct on some of it would be a little hard to fight to make some of those moves work. Was that a hard thing to get used to?
Extremely, for me. It was extremely hard for me. Ari's vision again was so precise, and I had to stick with it. And the first thing that he always only wanted, and I cheated only a couple of times in the film. I can say it now, many years later, but
of course,
of course, as we like to do. He's extremely fixated on center punch. So every actor has to be in the exact center of the frame. And for me, that was a violation of my brain. I was bleeding inside, and so much so that I still remember the first few days, and we were starting on a close up of Florence. She's resting on a pillow, and every time he was turning away, I was trying to give that half a turn of the wheel slowly to make Florence eyes just ever so slightly in a more aesthetic, pleasant way that was for my eyes at the time, Yeah. And every time I was going back, now I can see you. Put her back there.
He caught you.
I tried. But, it was every time. Then it became a joke, of course. And but then again, I had to embrace his own vision. There was no other way around, because it was a strong vision, and I respected it from the beginning to the end. So it was the way to do it. No other way.
But I think there's something really important in that, because at the end of the day, as operators, we have to become who they need us to be, right? It's not, because it is their film at the end of the day, and we're there to serve that story and serve that film. Yeah,
you're so much right. Sometimes ego may go in the way. I like to pat myself on the back and say that I always think about twice if my ego is going in first, and I always like to think of the story that we're telling, at the frame that we're telling, and the director's vision. And as you mentioned before, if I can make it better, that's great. Or if I have an incredible idea and I know that the director can take it on board, or can discuss it, that then I feel free to say something, and offer up something. But otherwise, I like to respect the vision first and not put myself first.
Well, as I was saying before, I mean, I didn't use this word earlier. I mean, he's really one of the few directors out there who I really consider to be an auteur. He's the complete. It's his movie when you see the movie. Whereas you and I have worked for so many other directors who are fantastic in their own right, but it's much more of a collaborative. This is what I have, and you make it better, and you make it better, and you bring this, and you bring that, and it's just it has the stamp of who he is on that. There's no question about it, and we know now since
Indeed.
seeing other movies. Were you involved with the actors on a level that you were on other movies in that, or for that reason do you sort of pull back a little
lot?
bit from
lot involved with the actors. I was a lot involved with the actors because it was extremely hard to be there on set. And Florence, which is an incredible actress and a very
amazing.
nice person altogether. We spent a lot of time there, and she had a very hard time there, being in costume, covered in flowers, and endless scenes in incredible hard sets. To be. It's a film that I keep in my heart because we ended up every night together with all the cast and in the same hotel, having a drink all together and give each other a pat on the back and say, "Hey, we've done an amazing work today. Thank you very much for being there for me." It basically we established friendships that lasted for many years. So I came across Florence a couple of times on other jobs, and she just hugged me when she sees me, and we share a big hug that lasts a minute without saying nothing. It's incredible.
That's the best. And I would imagine, I mean, look, there was a lot of emotional stuff in that movie. And from the looks of it,
exactly
you're 5 feet away from her, or 4 feet away from her, or whatever.
Yes.
But, and I don't know if I'm going to guess that you feel this way. I mean, that's one of the things that I love as being a camera operator is that many times they're performing for you when you're that close, don't you think?
It's such a privilege, Dave, as you describe it. Being a foot away from somebody that has to go into such a demanding character. Can you imagine? I mean, she cried most of things, in the lens, and I was there with her. So, her process to do things is incredible. So, I have the utmost respect for her, of course, and her craft.
What a privilege to be a part of that movie. So jumping from that to working with Tim Burton, which you've done, I know at least 2 projects. I don't know if you've done more, but did you do all of Wednesday?
I've done all the season 1 with him. I've done all Tim Burton's episodes. I've done all Tim Burton's episodes of season 2, and then I've done some of Beetlejuice with him. But that was on B camera.
Gotcha.
While on Wednesday was on A camera.
I mean, he seems like another director who knows what he wants.
Yes, Tim is an incredible. Let me start with this. Tim is an incredible human being. And an incredible friend. I love him to bits, and he knows. Another incredible privilege to work with him. I pinched myself every day that I was on set with him.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm looking at your movies, and I'm like, wow, he works with all these geniuses. He's so lucky. It's amazing.
Tim never work on a preset idea. The way Tim works, he's very visual director. Luckily, that's what makes it incredible for me and for many others, of course. Tim will block us in and rehearse a scene with the actors, and Tim will give an incredible freedom to the actors to express themselves. And Tim will want to see what they do in space and how the scene comes alive with the actors' work, and that becomes a scene. And when I witness every time, I always shiver because it's an incredible process. And I'm so lucky to have been part of it, and that's how the scene borns, and that borns there and then on set. at 8:00 in the morning, and that's the first scene of the day. And you can't, as you can imagine, in that way, you can't do much beforehand. You have to be prepared. You have to be on your toes. You have to be very good. You have to embrace it, and you have to be ready to shoot it. So Tim will look at me and go, "You got it?" "Yeah." And off he goes to his trailer. So there is me prepping everything, first AD, myself, and director of photography, everyone at that point working on the blocking and make it work, and start the rehearsal with the stands in, make it work into space, and then when everything works mechanically wise, call Tim on set, because the first thing you don't want to do is to distract him with a mechanic thing that doesn't work. Tim is very focused on performance. He expects you at a good level to succeed straight away in what you're doing. He doesn't want to be the camera in the way of the process, which is so very understandable to me, and it's clear. We all have to be on board and ready to let the actors do what they rehearsed with him and make it happen, in a very fashionable way. and from there on, improve take by take, and it would take shape while Tim directing and giving notes, and it's an incredible process to be part of. Yes. The incredible part is that Tim must have given me probably 2 or 3 notes in 3 different projects that we worked together. That was it, just to
Wow.
give you an understanding of how he sees camera. But that is not to pat myself on the back, but I always managed to understand what he wanted and read his mind. So Tim is extremely precise on setting up a room and all the details that goes in the background. So the way I saw it is just it was play that plays actors into a frame that we all see is working, and then it takes shape from there on, and then the actors start to do whatever they like to do, and we work around that. But it all starts with lines and shapes that has to make sense for our eyes.
And so do you and the director of photography come up with the way it's going to be shot in the blocking, and then you offer it to him, or is he involved in that at all?
No, it's mostly Tim having a vision, and sometimes he skips steps because you can see a lot is going on in his mind, and at that point the scene is taking it's already alive. It's like him sketching, and you can see that is happening in his mind. So many times he tells me, okay, I want this happening here, this, and then at this point Jenna does this, okay, so Wednesday does this, and I take it on board. I say, yeah, sure, Tim, and he can't be bothered listening to where or on which lens goes that into place, as far as it goes into place in a very nice way and the way he wants it. So that is the detail that you have in the scene. So you have to be ready to make everything sit around that detail, and then the rest comes together by itself. Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of stress, is it?
I would say so, but it's I call it nice stress. I would call it challenge more than stress, and it's challenge because Tim is incredibly old school and incredibly experienced. He was successful when I was still licking ice creams, and barely going on a bicycle.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's been around forever. So and he's been one of my inspirations. So I always trusted him in the process, and he knows exactly, like many other experienced people in that surrounds ourselves on set. He knows exactly every step of the process, and he knows everyone's job. So he knows things can go wrong. He knows when you work hard, he recognizes your work, and it doesn't bother him if if something doesn't work, that is part of the process without being annoyed. He goes, okay, we can go again for this, and he's so old school that as soon as we cut, the first thing that he does, and that reminds us the old days, he looked at me and he asked me if we got the shot. Because at the time,
that makes me so happy.
Yes. Oh, tell me about it. I'm still shivering because, as you well know, at the time we were the only ones looking in the viewfinder, and there weren't 30 monitors around on set. So we had the optical viewfinder. We were the proprietary, the ones that knew if we had the shot or not. So every time, that's the habit. Tim looks around and go, "Have we got this? Yeah, okay, we're moving on." And that makes it so fulfilling, man. It's hard to describe. Yeah. Yes, a dream. Seriously.
Yeah. And it also must be a complete playground to work on his stuff because it's so visually. I mean, it just seems like you can't go in there and shoot something bad. It just seems like the sets are amazing and the production design and everything.
I would say it's hard to make it bad. Yes. Well, we with some safety in there. His set designer is incredible. I mean, Tim is a genius. He's a visionary, and that applies to everything he does. So he has a vision on the set, what it has to be, and the set will will come up as it needs to be, incredibly well built and full of details, and you are into a dream. You're into a dream with the responsibility to transfer it onto film, over digital cards.
And going back to the idea that he's kind of figuring out as he goes, I mean, not in a bad way, but watching what the actors do and then responding to that. That said, does he go into his scenes with an idea that he wants this to be fluid or he wants this to be static, or does he, is it a blank slate until he sees what the actors do?
Most of time is a blank slate because he wants to see how the actors feel the scene, what the actors' ideas are about the character, where the character is going, how they're developing it. What's the right direction? What is not the right direction? And that's the beauty of the process that I haven't seen with any other director. It all happens there in the blocking, which is a privilege to watch. It's just incredible. And he gives, not just to the actors, that the beauty of working with him is he gives everyone he chooses to be with, he gives incredible freedom. So that applies to every HODs, the camera operator, the DPs, and Tim likes to trust the people around him that they will do their best job. And that it creates an incredible, unbelievable vibe on set where everyone is eager to be there and the air is fizzing and is electrostatic and you are creating magic. And I'm still shivering when I say it because it's just incredible.
That's what a privilege. That's fantastic. Well, but the funny thing is, like you say, that is, and I've seen this before, and I know you've seen it. Well, you've seen it here, obviously. But once you sort of charge people with making it better and trusting them to do better, 99% of the people will step up and do even better than they would have normally. Right? It just becomes what they want to do.
Indeed, it's the good old process of filming, that you step it up and you step it up and you step it up, and from there it becomes magic. And that reminds me the fact that the first time I worked with Tim Burton and the first time I met him, he was, to put it mildly, allergic to Steadicam. Or better put it, frightened of Steadicam. And that is unfortunately an experience that I went through with many other directors. And that was because probably had bad experiences and he didn't like the language of it, bad experiences, and you name it. And I think was day one on season 1 of Wednesday, so no pressure there. We were in a corridor and something went very, very wrong. I can't I can't elaborate now, but something
Okay.
went very, very wrong. And we had to shoot the shot on Steadicam. And the shot was Jenna walking in a corridor in an extreme close-up, the lens, I would say, 3 inches away from her eyes,
Hey.
and
Wow.
on a very tight lens, on a Steadicam again. And the pressure was immense because Tim didn't, I don't want to say he didn't believe in it, but at that point he was frightened and sitting in a corner and needed to see it if he was close to his vision and his ideas.
Yeah.
I went to Jenna, and Jenna is incredible. That's another podcast entirely dedicated to her, because when I met her, I think she was 19. I didn't know her work. I know she was already very well established in films, doing Scream and whatnot, but we were very new to each other. And I went to Jen and I said, "Look, we're in trouble here. I really, really, really need your help. That's the only way we got to shoot it. I need you." I explained her the shot and I said, "Look, your eyes will need to be traveling with the camera. You know, we're traveling together. If I see your steps, at that point, you will be floating into the lens." And she looked at me and she went, "Don't worry, I got you." And on first, and I said, "Okay, well, she better does." And first rehearsal,
yeah, and you walk away. You're not sure what that means, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and you are okay. I'm praying with everyone else, and we show a rehearsal to Tim. So first rehearsal, it went extremely well. So the first rehearsal is basically working, and at that point I hear Tim screaming, goes, oh my God, that's working. Let's shoot it. I love it. Let's shoot it. So that was day one. That was day one of me with Tim not liking Steadicam, forcing him into Steadicam because of what was going on, and him liking it. So, oh my God, you know, I went out of a bad story with some blue stars on my shoulder, and that set up some great stories, you know, to go away with, and some respect. So Tim was happier to shoot with Steadicam, and day by day we started using it a little bit more, and then he was, by block 4, was very excited to shoot in Steadicam, you know.
Amazing, and good for you, by the way. Thank you from all of us. That's fantastic. So it's funny because between these two movies, I mean, two experiences, two directors, they really are the complete extreme opposites, and yet both of them sound like they're amazing to work with.
Yes, I would say so. Yes, they're both very extremes in their visions, and both incredible to work with. Yes.
You just finished Werewolf with Robert Eggers.
Yes.
How was that?
I've done. It was another incredible set to be on. Another privilege, and it all started at 11:30 at night when the phone rang, and a producer asked me to join a set the day after. Somewhere lost in some forest, and then I get a text from a very good friend of mine, focus puller, Ashley Bond. I'm still grateful that he brought me on board, saying, "We are in trouble. We need your help. We need to shoot something that we're supposed to shoot on a 75 or 78 foot crane, and for whatever reason the crane failed." But still, the crane wouldn't have been able to shoot a shot. I learned that later on. Anyway, I show up on set to do a one-day Steadicam daily, to do the shot, which was a night shot anyway. And nobody described what it was because they were all busy filming. And Robert liked to shoot a camera only, so it was Chris Blevin that was the incredible Chris Blevin shooting a camera that was doing the shot. So I was away from set and just getting ready, of course, on film. So on an Aricam LT, that I had incredible memories of back in the days.
Sure.
But sadly nowadays it's turning to something else, because the HD video tap on top is as big as two bricks held together with a bit of tape.
Yep.
So the whole contraption was weighting. I can't remember what was the weight, but needless to say, I was at that point on black canisters on a pro arm at the end of the black canisters with a sled was as tall
Crazy
as me.
heavy.
I have a picture somewhere. Crazy heavy.
Oh.
And then I get described the shot, which was an incredible shot, at least for my legs and my back and my mind. With something like probably 35 characters, and I counted, I think, at least 7 Steadicam switches on my body at a fast pace at night, only lit by fire, real fire, and 30 characters dancing around in a ritual. And I won't say much more because the film is not out. So I can't say anything else.
Yeah.
Yes. And again, you are talking about Robert Eggers, which is incredibly specific. Yeah. And Jaron, his DP, is even more specific. So Jaron Blaschke's BSc is another incredible visionary director of photography. You may have seen the trailer of Werewolf. Incredibly specific on the way it needs to be shot, and everything needs to fall into place. So again, deja vu. Why did you guys call me? And I end up here at midnight shooting this thing until 4:00 in the morning. Am I? Is it a curse? But I think it is a curse in some good and bad way. But there I was again shooting something extremely hard to put together. In a night, or what was left of a night, with a very incredible heavy package on a film camera, on a Steadicam, 6-7 switches, trying to make everyone happy. And to say Robert Eggers was, I like to say, another director, and Jaron was another DP that hated Steadicam with a passion. Because it's just not part of their languages. Everything is on a crane or on a dolly because the travel of camera is way more specific and less free to move around. It's all part of a different language, as simple as this. So I had to make the Steadicam fit into that. Good luck. Yeah. But after that night, I found myself, something must have worked, because I found myself to stay with them for the rest of the film. So we've done few other Steadicam shots in in very hard conditions, and at the end of the film, the best thing that happened was that Jaron came to me and said, the way I see the frames, my opinion on Steadicam. You're my new guy. You're my guy for Steadicam now.
Wow.
And it was so. I mean, I was so humbled. It was the best thing that I could hear. That was a testament of a job well done, and it was very fulfilling.
Fantastic. Did I hear correctly that film is shot on 2 lenses?
Yes, you heard correct. It was shot on just 2 lenses. We had various set of lenses. I don't know what I can disclose yet, so I won't go into specific.
That's all right, but I'd heard that. And
yes, again, Robert and Jaron, very, very specific on those 2 lenses, because it's the way they envisioned the story.
Wow. What an interesting way to make something. And the other thing that I understand is that he, at least for this, wanted everything to be level, not tilting up or tilting down. Is that true?
Absolutely true. Absolutely correct. And that was another requirement on that first night. And I'm dealing with a lens position that has to be not tilted and at the same time at hip height. And this lead was so long that the battery was scraping the floor in few parts.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
I still have PTSD about that shot. I'm no kidding. That happened. That happened in November, and I still have bad nights. Yes, it
I'll
was
bet.
hard.
I'm
I can't put
sweating.
it.
I'm sweating listening to it. But they liked it. So you were obviously they made the right call, right? That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was lucky enough to get out of it winning. And after that, I was even more lucky because we found a 435 on the camera track that wasn't get used. There were only two camera bodies, only two camera LT bodies, and one studio and one LT that were used. And only a camera was playing because Robert is an A cameraman. He doesn't like
Single
second
camera.
camera.
Yeah.
So the 435 was sitting there taking dust, and the focus puller, my focus puller Leo Holber, said, "You know what? Why don't we ask and swap this for a 235?" We had a few weeks in the forest in Wales ahead of us with gruesome work to do, and luckily they said, "Yeah, okay, let's test." The camera and see how it works, test filters and everything. So I got to have a 235, which was a dream because then we built a proper dream rig made for gruesome, situations. And luckily we got it. So we went out of some other very harsh shots that I can't describe into details again, but lucky we had that because we were into mud up until the knees, and it was incredible.
Oh, wow. Well, I look forward to seeing it. Although now I'm going to have PTSD watching it. Jumping to the one other thing I want to ask you about, because it seems like something totally different than all these, the Mission Impossible movies that you've worked on. Because that just seems like a very different scenario than the other ones that you've just described to me.
Very different. Yes. Yeah, that was another incredible experience. Wow. I didn't sleep much before to make it on set, as you can imagine. My first time on mission was on Mission 7, and was to fill in for Chunky, incredible operator, Jonathan Richmond, an incredible operator, a camera operator. He needed, just to give you an idea of the amount of work on that set and of stress and overload, he needed 2 weeks of holiday to step back and and take his life back, because it was going through so much, and so I had the privilege to step in and fill in for himself for a couple of weeks on a camera, on main unit, no pressure. It's been incredible. I've been lucky enough to start with 2 weeks as a daily operator, and I stayed with them 3 years and a half on and off. Covering many things, being a big camera on main unit, or going off on second unit, or DPing second unit. I've done a bit of everything. It's a very let's describe it as a very tight environment where it's very hard to succeed, but once you succeed, they won't let you go. So I still remember after the first 2 weeks when I filled the shoes of Chunky. I was packing my equipment on a Friday afternoon, and Mary, the first AD, came to me and said, "Hey, stop what you're doing. Tom wants to say goodbye to you." And I stepped back in, and I was very frightened in a corner, and Tom was there, and McHugh, Chris McQuarrie was there, and Tom started shouting, "Hey, Fabrizio, come here! High five! You've been amazing! Thank you so much, man! Amazing work!" And he gave me a hug, and he lifted me off the floor, and it was, holy cow! Okay, that's an experience. And but that's how amazing Tom is. It's an incredible man to work around.
Wow.
And again, he's another one that really knows everyone work, and he really appreciates if you work hard for him. So that became a very long relationship when I get called again for 3 years and a half.
Yeah,
being on the side of Chunky and doing everything.
that's great.
And it was incredible. Yes, a very, very different
Well,
experience, of course, from working with Tim Burton.
yeah.
As you can imagine.
Let me ask you. So you're going in for that first 2 weeks, and on that first day, like you said, you're not sleeping the night before. How do you? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, but still, how do you? I mean, that you've stepped into a huge level there, and like you said, you're filling in for a friend. So the last thing you want to do is drop the ball on top of just not wanting to drop the ball. How do you push out the? What do you do to push out the nerves and push out the anxiety and do your job as well as you can and not let it get to you?
Right. That's a very good question, Dave. It's a very good question, and I learned that during the years. I think it's a skill to master. And that said, I never slept okay anytime I had to go on that set. Never, because my brain starts spinning at midnight and it goes into shooting mode, and there's nothing I can do to help it. It's not just stress; it's just my mind goes in. I'm ready. I'm in ready mode. That said, when you step on set, you can't show stress. And on my book is very important. Is on page 1. I do not allow myself to share and spread stress onto my team and onto any other department because that would create a vibe that is polluting and is wrong, So that is a skill, in my opinion, to develop and to have. You can't go away if you want to be around on those kind of sets that are very, very, very demanding. There's no shortcut to that. And you have to possess the skill. Doesn't matter the way you reach it. Doesn't matter if you're gifted to have it already in you. And a lot comes from self-confidence, I think. And it's the self-confidence that doesn't come through the last 12 hours of your life. It comes through the past 20 years of what you've done. And you failed many times before. I did, at least. And you now know that you can do it. It doesn't matter what it is. You can do it, and you can tell yourself, yes, I can do it. It doesn't matter what it is. Being Tim Burton telling you at 8:00 what the shot is, you better get it right. Or being Tom Cruise telling you, okay, that's the shot, and now jump in there and that's the lens, and you're there to do it. So if you can't cope with that, it falls apart. But to give you an idea of the pressure, that was a fun story. But my first day, I was filling in for Chunky. I still remember the key grip came to me. It was around midday, and he put an arm around my shoulder and he said, "Hey Fab, you're gonna be with us forever. You know that." And then he laughed and went away. And that I couldn't picture what he was talking about. And then I learned later on that there were few operators that they went through in a very, very quick, manner, and many didn't last. So I realized that I passed the 4 hours mark, and I was still there. It was a very good sign, and I can say he was right. 3 years and a half later. Yes, bless him, he was right.
That's fantastic. Well, look, sometimes that's the best way to come into a job is when you come in after one or two people who haven't done well, because the bar's a little lower, and then you just got to sort of get past that, and then you can step up. Right?
And sometimes I know the people that was there before. They're incredible operators as well, but sometimes it's a very hard and demanding and fast-paced environment, and sometimes you have to step up the game. I always say around Tom at 150%, because that's the way he does things. He's always 150%. So you better be above your best, because that's what he's asking you at that time. So if you can do that, fine. If you're not ready for that, you're not going to last. So sometimes not everyone is cut for that, So I can see it, and that's the reason why I couldn't sleep before to go on set. It's what it is.
That makes sense. What's the best part of your job and what's the worst part of your job?
Could be both the same answer. It could be both the at the same time the privilege of witnessing some magic happening, unfolding in front of your eyes, seeing incredible actors and incredible directors and incredible lighting going on at the same time, and at the same time the responsibility that is on your shoulder to make it at the best of the best that you have seen it, and make it even better of the ways offered in front of your eyes. Offer your experience and your vision on top of that, without altering, but at the same time enhancing it. So it can be a privilege and a responsibility at the same time.
That's a great answer. I think I asked you ahead of time, but 5 movies that you think that every camera operator should see, every up and coming camera operator should see?
Right. That's a tough one because my list is very long, as you can imagine, as I imagine yours is.
Well, you could give a couple more, whatever.
Yeah, I would put the first one, the very first one at the top of the list. And I talked about earlier on is Carlito's Way. And that it takes a special place in my life because I watched it the first time it came out. It was 1993, and it was just before I left Italy. And it was a story that stayed in my heart for many, many years. Just the beauty of the story, the romanticism around the story, so beautifully told. And I watched it probably 10, 15 times up until the magic time that I watched it, one of too many, and I fell in love with Steadicam without even knowing it was Steadicam at the time, And so that film is, for me, it's in a special place on its own, It's more than a film. For me, I am who I am thanks to that film. And every time I had the pleasure to work on set on Wednesday with Luis Guzman, which was at the time on the Carlito's Way. It was Pachanga, if you can remember, incredible character, so incredibly well performed. And every time I was next to Luis, I was pinching myself. And I speak Spanish, luckily. And I've been in South America for a while, in Caribbean islands and in Mexico a few years. So I speak Spanish with South American accent. So he always threw jokes in Puerto Rican accent, and I was getting back to him. And sadly, I never had the chance. I never had the chance to tell him how important he was to my eyes. I always kept it for myself. I'm a bit of a shy person, so I always kept it for me, but, incredible, really. Oh, yes. After that, I would say Hit. Hit, incredible film. Al Pacino, Robert De Niro. One of the most incredibly shot shootout on streets. Jimmy Murrow, Steadicam. Oh my Lord! I wouldn't know where to start, how to describe it. Again, a film that I watched probably 10, 15 times. I could still watch it tonight and be amazed, beginning to end. Another amazing one, a bit more dated, but that left a mark into my aesthetic senses. Kill Bill Volume 1. The graphics, the colors, the framing, the Steadicam again of Larry going through corridors and angles. And I spent hundreds of hours trying to mimic his way he was operating through those corridors with those details and stairs. And he's always been my inspiration, of course, in Steadicam words. So that is another film that I keep in a very special place. Where I've been absorbing a lot from. Joker, another incredible film to my eyes. Very heavy to absorb. I still remember when I watched it in cinema, I was just, wow. I couldn't talk after the credits. I was still absorbing the performance of the acting and the colors and the rendition and everything. Wow. What else to say apart from wow?
Yeah.
Interstellar, maybe less operating, incredible operating without taking anything away, but the story still stays with me. And I have a
Great.
daughter, so to me, it's incredible. Yeah.
It's a fantastic list. That's a great starter list. Interstellar I hasn't made, I think, anybody else's list, so I love that that's in there.
Yeah, I loved the incredible
fantastic
way of how the story was told, and I loved the authenticity of the story, despite being so sci-fi, but incredibly well told. I have to add a sixth one because I can't go without Ennis Gladiator, another incredible film, and another incredible acting. And I had the luck to work with Russell Crowe recently on Highlander, which I was doing some camera work, and I mean, every time I look at him, I couldn't stop just daydreaming and look at him in awe. And a couple of times it was looking up on another actor that was on a first floor on a set, and I was in front of him, and he still had that exact look that he would give to the Tribune, to Caesar, and it was like, oh my God. Shall I cry here or go around the tent and cry? I'm still a softie for those things.
I was just going to say, so you're still affected by this, and you still love it after all these years.
Oh, totally. I'm absolutely not immune to those things. I'm
great.
Magic is magic to me, and that's what keeps me going. I wouldn't want to do this job if I didn't love it still, because I think, especially as a Steadicam operator or a camera operator, I think it's too hard if you don't like it, because my wife grew both my kids thanks to her. I've always been away. I've never been home when I was needed. I've never been home on birthdays. I've never been home on important things. I never be home full stop. So it takes a toll on your life. This is the less glamorous part that people doesn't see or that they don't like to think about. Yeah. But as you well know, we pay a price. There's always a price to pay. Put it this way: money doesn't come for free. The success doesn't come for free. You always have to invest a lot into, and it's definitely a huge toll that I think we pay to do what we do. But if you love it, I wouldn't swap it with anything else. I still love it. I think I'm still extremely privileged and lucky. And blessed.
Fantastic. Well, listen, this has been great. I'm going to leave you with, first of all, thank you. It's been wonderful listening to you and talking with you.
Thank you for your patience in listening.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm going to leave you with the question that I leave everybody with, and you can take us out. Advice for someone getting into the business now on how to succeed, and or maybe something that you learned along the way that you wish you knew a little sooner in your career.
Right. Something that I would love to have learned before. Politics. That's the hardest part in our world. The way to navigate on set and around set, politics, with everyone, because politics apply to everyone, to apply to your focus puller, to your camera team, to your director of photography, director, producers, actors. You get to work with some incredible talented people, and many actors, they have their own way to do things that you may not know, and it can incredibly challenging to fit into it straight away, from day one, and click with them and keep them, make them comfortable, make them relaxed, letting them know they can trust you fully when you say something, that is related to the framing and the aesthetic and applies to the shot. And then they can know that they are in good hands, and then they will start asking you for your opinion on how things develops, I would say, which is what what I said very often during Steadicam courses, or is the same advice that I give to all my trainees and second ACs that asks for suggestions. There's no shortcuts. It's a hard climb. It's a hard way through. There's so much to learn, but it's so enjoyable on the way. It's such an incredible journey to do. If you're passionate about, be passionate, still be passionate, and dream even bigger. That's so important. Never stop dreaming and dream as big as you can, because that is the motivation that will bring you far one day.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on theop.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening and have a great day.